Okay, then we're going to be grading NFL free agent signings. So I'm just going to be grading some of the free agency, some of the bigger free agents that signed this offseason. So let's start. First, we have Kirk Cousins signing a 4-year, 180 million deal, 45 average for 100 million guaranteed. Falcons, I think this is definitely a position of need. They were pretty much a quarterback away last year. They do have a very talented roster, and Kirk Cousins should fit right in. Last year, he was having a great season before his Achilles injury, but that's a really big contract to give a really old quarterback that's coming off an injury. So for those reasons, I'm gonna have to give it a B minus. Definitely a position of need. Definitely a good quarterback, but because of his age and injury history, 4 years, 180 million is kind of pricey for me. But still not bad. B minus isn't a bad grade. And then next, I'm gonna grade Saquon Barkley, 3 years, 37.75 million, 12.6 average, 25.5 million guaranteed. There's no doubt that Saquon Barkley is a really talented running back. Last year wasn't his best year, but the year before that was one of his best years. And his rookie season, he showed like he was a monster his rookie season. But other than that, he's only had like one or two great seasons, and last year he was kind of mediocre. But 3 years, 3 years, 12.6 average isn't resetting the market, but it is kind of pricey for a running back. And because of his injury history, I'm gonna have to give this signing a C plus. I just don't think running back was a position of need for the Eagles. They could have went cheaper, especially the last 2 years where they signed DeAndre Swift and Miles Sanders, both like average tier running backs, but they both had insane seasons due to the Eagles' offensive line. So I'm giving a C plus because I think the Eagles could have went different route in terms of running back. Instead of going for the top tier running back, it could have went like second tier running back, which is why I'm giving this signing a C plus. Okay, our next player we're going to be grading is Derrick Henry, to the Baltimore Ravens for 2 years, 16 million, 8 million per year average and 9 million guaranteed. Only 8 million per year. That's definitely not bad for a running back that's still very productive. Henry is getting old, but he has like very little injury history outside of 2 years. Last year was still very, very productive. So I think 8 million is a very good value for Derrick Henry. And a team like the Baltimore Ravens, who won't be using Henry extensively, I think he can fit right in. Um, Good value contract. Definitely fills a position of need for the Baltimore Ravens, who's only about like one piece away from the Super Bowl. So I'm gonna give this a B grade signing. Definitely not the best, but not the worst either. Like I said, I don't really like signing running backs to big deals, but 8 million per year is not bad. So I'm gonna give it a B grade. And then the next player I'm going to be grading is going to be Calvin Ridley, the top wide receiver in the market, 4 year, 92 million, 23 average, 50 million guaranteed to the Titans. To me, I'm not sure what the Titans were really thinking here. Titans really aren't a wide receiver away. It's Calvin Ridley is definitely going to help whoever quarterbacking next season. But 4 year and 23 million per year average is definitely a top tier wide receiver. I don't see Calvin Ridley as a top tier wide receiver. He was a very good wide receiver with the Falcons, but last year with the Jaguars, even though he got 1,000 yards, he was way too inconsistent for me. And I don't think his 23 million is enough for a very inconsistent wide receiver, especially on a team that has a very inconsistent quarterback. So I'm gonna have to give this move a D plus. I just don't see the Titans as a good fit for Calvin Ridley. And Calvin Ridley, he's just too inconsistent for me to sign to a big deal like that. The next player I'm gonna be ranking is Robert Hunt, 5 years, 100 million, 20 average, and 44 million guaranteed. Not a lot of money guaranteed, but Hunt, he's a very good offensive guard, very good run blocker, decent pass blocker, but he does have a penalty problem. But he does not really have an injury history. He was a starter all years on the Dolphins. But to me, the biggest stripe on this is his 5 years, 100 million. That's 20 million a year for an offensive guard. That is like top tier guard money, and I just don't see Hunt as a top tier guard. He's more like a second tier level guard. So I'm gonna have to give this move a C. I Robert Hunt is good, but I just don't really like the contract. Similar to Calvin Ridley, it's definitely for the Panthers. It's a fit, but the contract to me is just way too bloated. So I have to stick with my grade here. The next player is gonna be Eric Armstead, 3-year, 51 million, 17 average, and we haven't figured out the guaranteed money yet. To the Jaguars, definitely a good move. Definitely a need for the Jaguars. They gotta replace Calais Campbell, and Eric Armstead, even though he wasn't as good as he was like 2 years ago, still very good for the 49ers. 3-year, 51 million. 17 average value is not bad for a good defensive tackle, especially with how the defensive tackle market has been rising. Only knock on this is really Eric Armstead's age, him being 30, I think, this year. So, so, so B plus grade, not quite A minus because of a 3-year deal for 30 million for 30 a 3-year deal for a 30-year-old player, but other than that, I still think it's a very good move. Fills a need, very good player, reasonable contract, so I'm gonna give it a B plus. And then the next player I'm gonna have is Christian Wilkins, another very good defensive tackle, but 4-year, 110 million, a 27.4 average, an 84.75 million guaranteed. That average is like 10 million higher than Eric Armstead. Wilkins is a very good defensive tackle, but he's only like 1 year younger than Eric Armstead. I think he's 29 this year, and last year was really his only season with like more than 5 sacks. Last year he had like 9 sacks, but his previous high was like 4.5. But always a very good run stopper, probably one of the best run stopper. But similar to Hunt's contract, I just don't see 112, 10 million, 27.5 average for a only above average pass rushing defensive tackle, so I'm gonna have to give this grade a C plus. And the next player is gonna be Daniela Hunter. 2-year, 49 million, 24.5 average, 48 million guaranteed. Hunter had like what 16 sacks this year or last year, so still very good defensive tackle, especially or defensive and especially pass rushing, even though he is getting on the older side. But 2-year, 49 million is pretty good deal for a pass rusher, since they're usually worth more than a defensive tackle. 40 guaranteed is quite a bit though, but Hunter, he can still be productive. He's showing no signs of aging, and definitely fills a big need for the Houston Texans. So I'm going to give this grade an A. Great deal for the Houston Texans. Then on the next player is going to be Patrick Queen, going to the Steelers on a 3-year, 41 million, 13.7 average annual value, and 13.84 million guaranteed. Nothing really wrong with the contract. 13.7 average per year is pretty standard, standard for like good linebacker money. But to me, the biggest problem is Queen himself. I think he's only had like 1-2 good years. Before that, he was not that good. He only really got good because of Roquan Smith in my eyes. And that contract is pretty reasonable, but I'm not a huge fan of Queen. He does fulfill a need for the Steelers. Steelers have been looking for a great linebacker for a while, but I just don't really think Queen is that number one guy. He's more of a guy to me that does really well when he has another guy good next to him. So I'm gonna have to give this a B grade. Contract wise, pretty good. Just player wise, I'm not a huge fan of. And the next player I'm going to be reviewing is going to be Xavier McKinney. He's actually going to be the last player to the Packers. 4-year, 68 million, 17 average, 23 million guaranteed. Definitely a little bit pricey for a safety, but Xavier McKinney has been one of the best safeties on the Giants the past 2 years. He has been like pretty much only good defensive player for the Giants. Well, only concern about him is that his injury history is definitely not the best, but ever since his rookie season, he's been a very good safety. In the last 2 years, he's been a top safety, so definitely a little bit pricey and a little bit injured and a checkered injury history, but definitely fills a need, especially with Darnell Savage leaving. So I'm gonna have to give this move an A minus. So there you have it. If you want a part 2, push the like button. But there you have it, grading NFL free agent signings.